Pleased to be joined right now by our first guest entering his 10th NFL season and first in Pittsburgh. Steelers wide receiver Allen Robinson is with us. Allen, thanks a lot for coming on the show, man. How's everything going so far in Pittsburgh?
Everything's going well, man. Thanks for having me.
So take me back to March and April. You had a really unique situation here. You and your agent, Brandon Parker, had the ability, permission to talk to different teams, to try to work out a trade. You knew that you'd have to rework your contract. You end up back in Pennsylvania, back where you started in college. Just take me through that process and how it ended up that you're a Steeler now.
Yeah, it was something that happened pretty quickly, and once the ball kind of got rolling and, I kind of got wind of it, I was definitely all for it. I had talked to Coach Tomlin, way back in my pro day, which is a long time ago, but it seems like yesterday, and even once the trade went through, we kind of spoke about that. But just hearing everything about the Steelers organization, like you said, going back to Pittsburgh, I thought going back to the state of Pennsylvania, I thought would be a super cool thing. So once I kind of got wind of that, for me, reworking my contract and things like that, whatever I needed to do on my end to kind of help facilitate that and get that done, I was willing to do.
You had I'm sure a frustrating year in LA for a lot of different reasons, both personally. The team didn't play well. When you signed there, it was a big deal. They made a huge commitment to you from a financial perspective. They bring you in. Obviously, the quarterback is a big part of that, too. Matthew gets hurt, and then, everything kind of goes downhill from there. But what happened in your mind when you go through, not just for you, but for that Rams team? Why did nothing seem to come together the way that it was supposed to?
Yeah, it was tough, man. I think one of the big things were, we never really had a full, healthy group. Even going back to OTA time and training camp and things like that, I thought personally I had one of my best training camps of my career, but unfortunately through a lot of that, Matthew wasn't 100% healthy. He was still coming off an injury that he had from their Super Bowl year, so we kind of had that, and then as the season progressed from week one moving forward, O-line-wise, we was kind of banged up. Once you got to like week 6 or 7, I was kind of nursing a foot, so I was banged up. Cooper was banged up, so for our team, we never actually could really hit a groove and hit the stride that we wanted to hit, and then from a schematic standpoint, I just felt like everything was kind of, thrown off a little bit by so many people in and out of the lineup.
Sean McVay went through it, during and after the season too, Allen. He had to think about his future after the season. Obviously, you knew at that point, your future is uncertain where you're going to end up. But when you think back in your mind, were there any signs throughout the course of the season that maybe, Sean was, whether it was contemplating walking away or that, just there were other things on his mind?
That's tough for me to say. Again, I think for myself, I was so focused and so locked in onto how I can continue to get better and how I could continue to try to make my role on the team and in the offense evolve. So that was my main focus. I was really kind of tunnel vision on myself and some of the changes and different things that I could do, to try to help better myself and better the team and the offense, So from a lot of many outside perspectives, truthfully, I wasn't focused on that. All my time, energy, and resources was continuously week to week to week being put back into myself, for me trying to get the year that I was looking forward to having and the time that I was looking forward to having to try to get that on track, and again, unfortunately, I had a foot injury come up, but throughout the course of the season, man, I just truly was kind of reflecting on myself more so than anything and figuring out how I could be better, how I could maybe change things as far as how certain things were going in terms of myself.
How you doing health-wise now, Alan? The foot and everything else?
Doing well. Getting back on the grass. I'm back doing some OTA stuff. And I tell everybody, when it comes to injuries, the first part about an injury is getting healthy, but then the next part is getting back to yourself. So I've been able to, do different things like that over the past couple of weeks. It's a good opportunity for me to be able to go against the defense and stuff like that a little bit before we kind of get into that break before training camp. So now I have a whole 7-week block or so to do things that I need to do to get myself back to being myself as we head into training camp. But everything has been going smooth and everything has been progressing very well.
How significant was that foot injury, Alan?
Can you say that one more time?
How significant was that foot injury?
Man, with all injuries, especially things like feet, with the particular injury that I had, it was a stress fracture of my navicular bone, and just kind of being off it and things like that, for a player is frustrating, especially for me. Like I said before, getting hurt the time of the year that I did, I thought I was continuing to try to ascend with my role and different things like that in the offense, so it definitely was frustrating. And even now, when you come off an injury, man, it's something that you got to keep your head down. You got to be cognizant each and every day of things that you need to get better at and want to get better at. It's not something that you can just sit back and hope for the best. You really got to be pushing the ball forward and really be locked into your training, to your rehab, and to everything each and every day. But again, for me, man, challenges and obstacles like that and adversity, that's what I'm built to go through. I've been able to bounce back from some different things like that throughout the course of my career. I had a navicular fracture in my rookie year. Then I tore my ACL my fourth year, so I've been able to have some injuries and bounce back, and I'm looking forward to doing the same.
Steelers wide receiver Allen Robinson is our guest. You've had some quarterback luck in your career, too, and not the good kind, Allen. You finally get with Matthew Stafford last year. Obviously, he's got the injury. Tell me about Kenny Pickett. When you're looking at what you've seen just through the offseason here, I'm sure you studied it before you agreed to accept the trade and redo your contract. What do you see in him, if anything, that makes you believe this guy could be a really good NFL quarterback?
The number one thing that sticks out to me, aside from his talent, is, he's a leader. And when I say a leader, he's the guy who has a great command, and seeing the command that he has of a team as a second-year player, man, is pretty remarkable. You don't see too many guys be able to kind of take the bull by the horns, how he's able to do that, and just kind of get the command of everybody, that's meeting-wise, that's pre-practice, post-practice, getting throws in after, it typically takes a little bit longer for guys to kind of, go through that maturation process and learn to take what they need and learn how to, get some of the extra reps and steal some reps here or there, but he's already on top of that, man. He's been on top of that since day one that I got here, and it's fun to see, and just kind of being out there with him each and every day, man. I mean, we've all, as an entire unit, have been progressing, and that's exactly what we want.
What kind of role are you looking at for yourself in this offense, Allen? Because I know last year, with the way that Cooper Kupp played, there were some questions in terms of exactly how those pieces were going to fit together. How do you feel about the role that they're kind of carving out for you in the Steelers offense in terms of the fit that you're going to have?
Yeah, I think the most unique thing is that for our receiver room, between me, George, and Deontay, we all have different skill sets, and I think that's something that bodes very well, when you have guys who can have different skill sets, who can play different spots and be moved around and different things like that, So for me, I've been able to come in and just kind of learn the whole landscape of the offense, that's playing, X, Z, F, whatever that may be, just so that I can be utilized in whatever way that they need me in many different ways, So for me, that's just kind of where I've been, locked in at, is just kind of, gaining a full grasp of the offense, so that once we get to training camp and different things like that, I'm able to be utilized in many different facets.
You mentioned earlier Mike Tomlin was at your pro day, which would have been right about 9-10 years ago, I believe. What do you remember about that day and any interactions you had with him?
Yeah, so I remember actually the offensive coordinator for the Steelers that day was kind of running our workout, Coach Haley. So him and Coach Tomlin were both kind of, front and center when it came to that, and it was me and just one other receiver at that time going through the pro day. And my cousin who played in the CFL at the time, he threw for me, so it was pretty unique. But I remember, man, it was just us two, and then the other receiver ended up going down. So it was kind of just me running routes, and I was going back to back to back to back to back. And that was something that Coach Tomlin, said that he liked and enjoyed, watching me work. And actually another receiver coach ended up stepping in, and who was Coach Jerry Sullivan from the Jaguars, who ended up kind of stopping the workout because I was by myself. But it was, it was a fun story, and just kind of, how things have progressed, being able to be connected to that and see how things can come full circle in the NFL is pretty cool.
Does Mike still have that same energy that he's always had? I mean, you've been around him now through the spring here, going through practices. Do you see that same juice that you've always, I'm sure, seen on TV and whatnot from him?
Most definitely. It's such a special trait. I think that for me personally, even as a player, when you sit in team meetings every single day, it's truly the art of getting guys' mind right, ready to play football each and every day. And as a veteran, you can appreciate that. I think that once you play time in this league, you start to really cherish some of the small things, and especially for me now, again, coming off the injury, being able to hear Coach Tomlin, how he gets us mentally prepared on a day-to-day basis, and then going out there, from whether it's from drill to drill, from meeting or whatever, taking the small things, staying attentive to the details and different things like that, and that's a big reason why he's been able to have success in this league, because not a day goes by, where we aren't locked into the little things and those aren't being brought to our attention on how we can be better as a unit, better as a team, and better as players.
So as you look, and I know you're a guy who follows the news at least a little bit, Alan, in terms of around the league, you've seen in your division, Lamar Jackson's re-signed, Odell's coming in there to join him in Baltimore. You got Cleveland now, a full offseason with Deshaun Watson. He's going to be out there from week 1 this time around. Then you got the Bengals, who are, for as long as Joe Burrow's there, going to be talked about as one of the favorites in the AFC. Give me your breakdown of the division and the pitch, if you have one, for why we should believe in the Steelers in the AFC North in 2023.
Yeah, man, it's a great division. I think that as a competitor, as a player, that's what you want to do. You want to line up against the best talent across the league each and every Sunday. And for us, we know the competitive division that we have. But again, I think that when you have the group of players that we have the character of guys that we have in this locker room, and when you have the grit of guys that we have in this locker room, we're looking forward to that challenge each and every Sunday. And we're making sure that even right now, today, as we go through the spring, that we're mentally preparing ourselves, for some of these different things that may happen during the season, for any adverse moment, and I think that you can already kind of see the grit of the group starting to form, again, and when you have a coach like Coach Tomlin, it's the reason, like I said before, why he's had success. He knows how to get guys to rally around each other. He knows how to get guys to buy into each other and different things like that. And like I said before, man, we have something special for him, and you can tell already.
You're getting a test right out of the gate, too. Week 1, you're facing the San Francisco 49ers, who, again, other teams can be talked about as one of the favorites within the division. Do you like the early test? Do you like having a hard game out of the gate, or would you rather ease in college style with a few of those, Division II type foes within the NFL?
Man, at the end of the day, it's the NFL. Everybody that you play week 1 is going to be a tough matchup. Teams, most times, that's when teams are their most healthy and different things like that. So you're typically going to get guys' best shot, early on in the season. But again, I think across the board, though, it's one of those things where you have new people in different systems and things like that. It isn't much tape on guys. You don't have as many trends that have set ins, and some of the analytical data of different things like that hasn't quite set in yet. So it's a true matchup of having to step in week 1. Two good teams going against each other, not knowing too much information about each other, just having to go out there and play ball. So some of those early season matchups are definitely fun. Because you just have to lock in. Trust yourself, trust your teammates, go out there and play ball.
You talk about that analytical data. There is quite a bit of data, actually, Alan, to back up the fact that you were the most open receiver on the Rams last season, even more so than Cooper Kupp, just in terms of the separation. People are going to look at the raw numbers and catches and all that and have questions, just like any player. What in your mind, how much do you have left? You're 29 years old. You turned 30, I think, in August. How much more is there still for Allen Robinson in the NFL?
I think I have a lot more. Again, like you said before, man, I'm going into my 10th year, but still to date right now, I'm 29. So I haven't broke 30 yet, which I will this year. But again, for me, how I approach my off season, how I approach my in season, and different things like that. I've learned to be able to improve in the areas that I need to, and I've learned how to do that. So again, I'm a guy who, I take my workouts, I take my training, I take my practices, I take everything like that serious. For me, it's always football. It's always how can I continue to improve myself. Again, like things like last season, things like that. That's not something that I'm bitter about. It's not something that I'm, upset about. It's, how can I continue to push this ball forward, and continue to improve myself, and be the best version of myself. That's all that I focus on. It's not anybody from the outside, any outside noise. It's just about me versus me. How can I continue to get better and continue to improve?
Last thing for you, Alan, very important. Check your Twitter. You're not a big Twitter guy, but I think one of your last tweets was about send the best spots to eat in Pittsburgh. Have you found your joints around there yet?
I have not yet. I was seeing everything come through, man. I'm like, damn, this is really really gonna break my diet. All these spots I've been sent. So at some point I'll get around to them, man. For everybody who's sending me spots on Twitter, man, continue to do that. I'm definitely gonna get around to them. Now, how often I may get around to those, I do not know, but I love to be able to have different options. So when I have family and things like that coming to town for games, I can always kind of, point them in the right direction of food places to come and eat. Because when my family comes into town and things like that, they love to try new places.
Alan, you're the best, man. Thanks a lot for coming on, and good luck this season.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
As Steelers wide receiver Allen Robinson.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.